Welcome to Unashamed, Unafraid, a show unashamed about sexual addiction recovery and unafraid of coming into Christ for healing.
Where we talk about real recovery stories, answer anonymous questions with experts, and share resources that actually work.
I'm your host, Steve.
And I'm your co-host, James, and we are unashamed, unafraid.
So sometimes I'm like, is our podcast even any good?
And then every time I'm like, yup.
Well, I just have to
listen to an episode and then
Yeah, so for me, I listen to the intro music. My head gets bobbing again. If you don't like hip hop, I'm sorry. I really am, but I just love it. And I bob and I'm like, no, this is good what we're doing here.
Yeah.
This is good. I'm glad we bought that non-licensed hip hop beat from some dude in Russia.
Yeah. Well, that was cool. We were sitting in the car and we're like, we should just email that guy and see if he'll sell it to us.
Yeah. Tried to talk him down. We're like, we're nonprofit. We sell it to us for less. He did, by the way.
He did.
Nice.
He came down.
Yeah, we should email, be like, here's our podcast. He should follow us.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a good guy. So this is another one of those, you know. So I'm going to be honest. I'm going to do a little honesty about me. Okay. I hate not being in control. Shocker. And so one thing we have not done for a long time is just invite people publicly. Hey, if you have a recovery story, come share it with us. Because I'm like, I want to know you. I know you're legit, and I can smell a good recovery story from a mile away. So I'm going to vet it out because I know what's going on. Me. Kurt Franklin's getting in my ear. Shout out Kurt Franklin, Leading Saints. And he's like, dude, some of my best content comes from just people. Like, allow God to be in this work with you. So I bring it to all of you guys, and you're like, well, yeah, dude, we should do that. 6 months goes by. I'm a little stubborn. And then we decide to do that. So.
Worth it?
Indeed.
Indeed.
So I get an email from Karen and Christian. She's like, hey, we have a recovery story. And I'm like, I guess we got to do it this way now. Okay, God, I'm listening. So I'm like, well, I'm going to talk to him first. Make sure we're good. So we talk on the phone. And before that call, I really was like, all right, God, I'll surrender this. So as long as the guys don't sound like freaking total weirdos, like, I will put it in your hands. So I didn't ask him all the details about their story. I wasn't like, how sober are you? Have you done therapy? Have you done this? What's that? Are you really Christian? Like, I didn't ask any of that. I was just like, look, this is what's going to happen. This is what we're going to do. So are you sure you're with God and you're ready? And does this work for you? They were like, yes. I was like, okay, let's schedule it.
And we did.
And we did. Another banger.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Some good heartfelt feelings in here. Man, I love some of the phrasing that Christian uses. Like, he talks about fighting like a lion. I'm like, oh, hits me in the soul. I'm like, yeah.
That CT who does all of our writing, his other name is Lionheart, if you don't know. In hot secret on CT, inside on team. But and I loved so early in the process, early in the recovery process. But dude, there was some honesty.
Oh yeah,
like just honest about what's really happened, where they're really at, and particularly as we got into the bonus content, I feel like I maybe asked some probing questions, some like,
yep.
Well, but really tell me how you feel about that. And we did in the episode too. And man, just honesty, right? And a big story too, right? Definitely some stuff we could brush over, kind of minimize, and not just from Christian, from Karen too, right? Talking. I mean, she was so transparent about how much denial she was
just
in.
Really conflict avoidant, didn't want to, and how that led into, her being kind of,
a doormat. Good phrasing. Yeah. She was like, I used to just be a doormat and let this happen.
Made it easy for him to manipulate and continue to stay in his addiction. No boundaries, it sounded like. And so, and then going over the boundaries in the bonus content, like we got some good stuff for our listeners today.
Yes. So, I always tell people when they come on and share, I say, hey, your story is going to be that story for someone.
Oh, yeah.
So Chris and Autumn, which obviously I'm hyped on all the time, like that was that story for me. I heard that week 1 in recovery when I did this therapy intensive at Lifestar. I heard that story and it changed me. It gave me that hope. And so I know we say every story is like the best one. This is another best one. Right. And the way they shared and the way that they are interesting, not therapy people, not a therapy background. We get a lot of therapy people on here, no therapy, and really doing some cool things, some really cool things in God. So worth the listen.
Absolutely.
And if you want to get in on the bonus content, unashamedandunafraid.com/donate. And what do we do with those donations, Mr. Will Height?
Those donations go to helping provide therapy for people who would not be able to afford it otherwise. So if you're, for example, if you're here in Utah, you may be able to attend a phase 1 on one of those scholarships or
group therapy.
Yep. Or perhaps if therapy is not your thing, we could sponsor you going to one of the retreats that we would, recommend you go to.
Which we have scholarships for currently.
Yep. So we have some for the Wild at Heart retreat. For the men's retreat, we have some for the Heart of a Woman retreat. And so just depending on where you're at and what you need, that's what those funds go toward.
Yep. So super cool. We did not know these guys at all prior to sitting down and recording this. So totally cool. Just how they go about and doing it. And that it grows to a bigger invitation. If you have a recovery story, Karen shares in the bonus, I said, why now? Why share now? And she said, we heard you say in January, if you have a recovery story, share. And God touched me and said, that's you.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
And so, and touch Christian too. And they came to that. So if God's touching you right now, send us an email. Send one to James at unashamedandunafraid.com if you want to share your story with us. If you got anonymous questions, submit them at the website. And if you want to donate or you're a resource that we should be donating to, let us know. So contact us as well. Give us 5 stars on iTunes if you enjoy this content. Share with a friend. And with that, we can get in the studio with KC, as I call them, Karen and Christian. Now, when I tell you, James, that you're in KC, you might be thinking of the Super Bowl champs.
I was thinking that.
Not that I'm not down with my boy Mahomes, but we are actually with some even better true champions, I would say, beyond just sport, but of life. Mm-hmm. Karen and Christian, how are you guys doing?
KC, I see what you did there.
You see that?
Right.
Yeah. You see that? Yeah. See that?
My dad would be so proud.
There's a bunch of people who are like, I'm not listening to this now based on this guy. So, Christian, how are you?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm good.
Good.
You are great. Just feeling the vibes already with you guys sitting in here. So, and then freaking Christian was like already crying. We pray before we record every episode. Like he started crying. I'm like, bro, we haven't even got started, man. Like I'm already, we're already feeling it. We haven't hit record. Yeah. Wait till we hit record. Karen, how are you?
I'm good. Very good.
Excellent. Well, thanks for being here with us. And, we talked about this before, James, kind of front end, but so we're going to do this a little bit differently than we have in the past. Karen listens to every episode, so you know the drill, right? We know how this goes. So we're going to start kind of in the middle as opposed to starting in the beginning of your story. So tell us, at the height of addiction, Christian, where were you at?
The height of addiction, I was wrapped up in a selfish turmoil of pornography, chatting with other women. Mm-hmm. I was just all over the place. I was seeing people. I was chatting. I was doing everything I could to feed that addiction. Mm-hmm. And it was hell.
Seeing people like affairs?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. There was some extramarital affairs I had. And, that was pretty much the height of it. You know, I mean, it was just over a long period of time, probably about 30 years of looking at pornography.
Yeah.
And it started with pornography. That's where it all started. I'll be the first to admit that was my downfall when I indulged in that day after day after day, that I felt like there was no way out, that I needed that addiction.
As you describe, like hell, like he put that in one word, because a lot of people think, oh, addiction, like if no one knows about it, I have my cake and eat it too. I'm getting away with it, which isn't really accurate. But the question I want to ask you, Christian, is how did you get there? Extramarital affairs, right? You said pornography was kind of the path in. Like, how did it happen?
You know, just being a young kid, curious. You know, you hang out with like some neighbor kids that didn't hold the same values that you did. And, you know, their parents were very free with that stuff, with pornography. And, you know, I was able to look at it every time I, quote unquote, went over and, you know, just walked with my friends home from school. You know, we were able to spend some time at my buddy's house. And, you know, his dad just had him laying around basically. And, you know, for the longest time, you know, I didn't think I had a problem. I didn't think that pornography was a big deal. I was like, there for a while, I was a casual looker, you know, not every day, but, you know, I would do it. And, you know, I didn't think I had a problem. You know, I knew how to control it. I knew how to keep it a secret. I knew, you know, there again, I was like, you know, thinking that I was the only one that ever had a problem, or, that if nobody knows about this, I guess,
I'm not hurting anyone.
I'm not hurting anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So like raised Christian?
Yes. LDS.
Okay. Raised LDS. So Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Correct.
If you're missing on that one. So like, I'm sure family church, this was like you don't do that.
Yes.
So how did that relationship go?
I knew how to, like over the years, I guess I knew how to kind of put the guilt aside, that I was just so good at, manipulating my feelings, and that I would just drown them with more addiction, like looking at more pornography and just being able to kind of push the guilt aside, if you will. So
I want to know a little bit about what your relationship with God was like.
In those formidable years.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, if you want a timeline, I was, I received the priesthood when I was old enough to do so at 12.
Right. But none of those things really indicate a relationship with God. So just really, what was your relationship with God like?
Not very well. I would pray occasionally. I would never read my scriptures. I don't think I ever read the Book of Mormon all the way through in my adolescence. And
did you end up serving a mission?
I did.
Where'd you go?
Guatemala.
Okay. So, that's a lot of times people feel like they find God in that experience. It's one of the primary purposes. Did you find God there? Like, was that a testimony builder, to use the...
It was actually I find that was a great time of learning about the gospel. Yeah. I mean, it was a great experience. It was hard. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, there was a time where I was able to find God, and it was on my mission. And, and that's helped my testimony greatly. But it was just during those times, it was just hard for me to let go of that addiction and let God in. So to answer your question, I mean, there really wasn't a time where I was like, for the sake of, I truly converted.
Yeah.
Oh, That's a good way to say that.
I really wasn't truly converted. I was only good on Sundays. if that makes sense.
Totally. So if I could grab you at 21, 22, right? You're fresh off the boat.
He's on the mission. He went at
I went
21.
later.
You went at 21.
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forward me to 23 and a half, wherever. Post mission, that's what I'm getting at, right? So post mission, if I pulled you aside and I said, okay, total honesty here, who is God? Like who is he? Describe him to me. Not he's the rule of the universe, he's this, atonement, judgment, like as a person, like you describe a friend. You know, oh, have you met Joe? Oh yeah, who's Joe? What's Joe like? Joe's like God at that moment in your life, God was like what?
Occasionally there for me, but I knew he was always there. But I mean, he was just, it's so hard to explain, but it's like I didn't want to let go of that pornography addiction. And so I didn't want to let him in. And it was hard for me to open up to him. You know, I just felt like he was never there, you know, because I mean, to be honest with you, it was hard to find God because I was so caught up in everything bad that I was doing. There would be moments of like, there would be times of like sobriety, maybe even a year or two of sobriety, but it would always revert back to, all right, I need a fix.
Yeah.
I need a fix. And I pushed God aside. So, and it was my own fault.
Yeah.
I pushed the one person aside that could help me.
So when in your life, like we talked height of addiction, but when did you start to realize like, I think I might have a problem?
I would say that I didn't think I had a problem until about a year and a half ago. You know, I would just, you know, get immersed so much in the pornography that I didn't want to let it go. And I was just feeding that addiction constantly. And it actually increased more maybe the last 5-6 years that I just couldn't get enough. And, you know, and I was seeing people, I was, you know, chatting with people. I was doing a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have, all because I needed that fix.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you two meet? Fill that part of the story in for us.
Or am I telling it?
You tell it. You've just been sitting there so quiet. She's just been holding his hand, supporting him, and kind of sharing some of this stuff, heavy stuff too, right? Sharing
That's
his
right.
heart.
So speaking of fresh off the mission, that's when we met. Like he got home in July and we met that November. It's really random. We were both at a movie theater and he saw my hair, the back of my head in the lobby. He thought it was pretty. He started talking to me and I gave him my pager number. I mean, it's 99, so, you know. And and he paged me the next day. We went out, and it was like that fast. We were married in July the next year.
Okay, so dated courtship. I was about a year.
Yeah.
Well, when you see a back of a head like that, Christian, you gotta go. You know, you can't stall. So coming into this relationship, what was that like for you? Also, so what was your background growing up? God,
LDS.
Okay.
Well, you know, I was a bishop's kid, and my grandpa had a little bit of famous. He was a professor down at BYU and wrote a lot of books and gave a lot of speeches. And so when people hear my maiden name, they're like, oh. And so I think I kicked against that a little bit. I rebelled a little bit. I mean, in the scheme of things, it was like nothing. But in my family, I was the black sheep,
So we have quite a few rebels who have been on this podcast.
You were in a rated R movie.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes.
That's what it was.
Yes, exactly. I drank Diet Coke.
For real, I'm asking in earnest, like, what did that look like for you?
So,
like you being a rebel,
but not really. I mean, a rebel in my family, but really I wasn't. I had a good relationship with my father. I had some...
Meaning your earthly father or the guy upstairs?
My father in heaven, both.
Okay.
And my father in heaven and with God. And I had some experiences as a teen that just never left me, that just always carried me through. I just knew he was always there for me. I was definitely his daughter. He was the kind and gentle father that I always needed. So...
Awesome.
Even if I was a rebel.
Christian, were you in the getting married is going to solve these sexual issues for me?
Oh yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Oh yeah. I was totally all in. I was thinking that, okay, as soon as I get married, won't have these problems ever again.
Yeah.
And I guess a lot of people suffer from that thought that.
Yeah. We like to joke about it and laugh about it on here all the time. Yeah. Right. It's just because it's common, right? It's common, particularly from a LDS culture background where it's like no sex. It's like, okay, well, if you turn the sex faucet on, then maybe I won't need this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
exactly.
See the logic there, right? So any disclosure of sexual behavior before you guys got married?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us what that looked like.
He told me that he had viewed pornography and other things that he had done. How much you want to go into? But so I knew all those things.
Other sexual behavior with other girls, right?
Other girls before, and I just never knew how bad it was. I just thought, because I had viewed pornography, so for me, I was just like, okay, well, I've seen it too, but I didn't think it was like a needed thing that something he needed or
that he's compulsively looking at.
Exactly.
For me, it was more like, this is naughty. I'm curious. Let's, but for me, it was more like that. So
yeah. So were you honest with her when you got married about everything that had happened, or was it like a half truth?
I think it was more like probably a half truth. I kind of downplayed the pornography issue, that I had looked at it, that I had indulged in it, but I don't think she ever caught on to the whole truth. So,
right. So the term we use is spotlighting, right? I'm going to share enough to kind of make this situation work.
Exactly.
But whole story, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was really good at that.
As many of us are, Karen. Yeah. As many of us are.
Yeah. I was very good at it.
So we get married. Mm-hmm. Yep. It's all good.
Yeah, we get married, and probably
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years, I started, kind of.
So you were completely sober for a couple of years.
I would say, yeah, I would say, we were
Karen's
sober.
giving him the like,
it's 2000.
She's like, yeah, we
not
can.
Really like there. It's not like he was out buying magazines or something, but I don't know if we don't.
We don't have to have some decisive judgment.
Right. But I would say pretty. I would say pretty sober.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually the truth. But thereafter like a year or two. Back then, as Karen mentioned, that there was not, internet was just barely coming on, and so
had you had a smartphone, you might have been in a different situation.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I actually went and bought some magazines.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you did?
I did.
Did I know this? Sometimes my mind lets me forget some stuff. So that might be one of those.
Yeah, I had actually bought some magazines, and in our apartment, I kind of kept them in the back room where it was just kind of like all of our stuff. And, there was times during like family parties, I would like disappear and like just go into the back room and just like flip through a page and just, I just got a quick fix. Mm-hmm. And that's what a lot of things turned out to be. I would vanish there for a while and just like kind of be off in my own little world and try and find, just an escape. And not like our marriage has been bad or anything. It's just
piss me off.
I just want to
disappear.
Yeah. I would just want to get away and just indulge in that addiction.
Yeah. So Karen, when did this, like, you're 2-3 years into this, like, so when did you start to, because we often hear women share, like, I knew something was off. I knew he wasn't okay. I didn't feel like he was all there. For some reason, we couldn't completely connect. Like, we hear it a lot of different ways, but oftentimes there's this intuition that comes in, like, something's going on. Something's off.
I think I was pretty oblivious, and I am really good at denial. I'm really, really good at denial. So, but 2 or 3 years into our marriage, he admitted that he had been with a girl. Not all the way an affair. Well, he spotlighted what he did with her. And that rocked my world. So I had no idea.
Meaning you just said this emotional thing happened and left out that it got physical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you came to her.
Yes.
Somewhere in that 2-3 years into the marriage.
Yes.
So why'd you come to her?
Guilt. I had a ton of guilt. I was racked with guilt, and the only way I could get to that point of feeling better is if I told her. And and it was hard telling her that. Because I saw the look on her face of total, just broken heart. And, and then we went and, talked to the bishop at the time. And, back then, I had admitted to him.
Back in the pager days.
I had admitted to him of what I did. And he's like, well.
Same spotlighted story you told her?
I think it was all the way with him, but
you told him everything.
I told him everything, but he wanted Karen to come in, and that was a total blow to me because I thought I was just going to share that with him. But he's like, you need to tell your wife. And I can just remember I couldn't even look at her look at her because I was so ashamed. I was riddled with guilt, and I can remember that the bishop at the time, he says, hey, you need to remember, basically I'm just going to kind of give you a slap on the wrist.
You're actually thinking of a different time.
What time was that?
We often have this experience.
That's right.
When you've been doing recovery on it, right? It's like, which time, which bishop was that? So that's not a big deal. So
I think so. This very first time we did not go to the bishop.
Yep.
We didn't do anything, and I was so devastated by it. I didn't want to tell anybody. I didn't want to go any further than us. I didn't want it.
And you're thinking this is just an emotional affair.
Yeah, it was a one-time thing. I must be a horrible wife. I'm going to fix it with more sex, which obviously never works. But I didn't know what else to do. There wasn't.
Your own shame's coming out there.
Exactly. I must be doing something wrong. Those kinds of things. And so that happened the first time. Then the next time is the time he's thinking about when we went in to go do Temple Recommends.
Yep.
And I went in first, or you went in first?
I think you went in first.
And then I came out, and then he went in, and he was in there forever. And I'm like, what is going on? And then they brought me in.
Right.
Yeah.
So and
this was for that same affair, and you just told him about the physical part, or this is another affair? Another affair, and we're a year down the road, 10 years down the road.
This is probably 5 years.
5 years.
Okay. So you've kind of gone back into denial, Karen. And when you look back on this time now, are you like, well, I was in denial. It was so obvious.
Yeah. I feel like when this whole thing finally came out, I just told him, I feel so stupid because this isn't the first time. So it's like, how many times does this have to go through before I realize, but yeah, so that's when he got like the slap on the wrist kind of a thing. He went to some
counseling,
therapy,
I think.
some counseling. And I think they even recommended me coming in, and I said, that's your problem.
Yeah.
I'm not going in there.
Super typical reaction.
Yeah. Discussing us. And they also, I think, mentioned ARP at the time, the church's 12-step. And I was like, those are for old perverts. No, we're not doing that either. I had no conception of what anything was. And I'm really, like I say, really good at denial. So I just would rather trudge along in whatever we were doing. Yeah.
So,
which was not good.
So were you like, hey, we're in round 2 of you having an affair. Like, is this a perpetual problem? Like, are you like, I think this is a pattern? Or you just saw it as individual instances?
And I still thought I must have something to do with it. Like, I still thought, and at the time too, we were going through infertility. And so I was taking a lot of fertility drugs. And so I was not a very nice person. And so I'd be like, well, I'm an honorary wife. I'm a horrible person to be with. So, it's a lot of that kind of stuff I put on myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And so did you let her just kind of take that weight and you were good with that?
During that time, I was not supportive.
Okay.
I was totally, fixed on my addiction. During that time, I was selfish. Yeah. I was so selfish. I only saw me and my addiction and looking for the next fix.
Yeah. And so this went on for how many years then?
So we've been married 20 years in a couple weeks.
Okay.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And it finally ended a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and you said that right kind of at the top of the podcast. I said, when were you finally like, I think I've got a problem? You're like, a year and a half ago. So, so I'm assuming height of addiction was around that same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So height of addiction, you kind of told us where you're there. So you're living in total denial land. And denial implying that your gut was telling you stuff was wrong. Yeah. Life wasn't working out.
There's just always things like he worked 2 jobs. His weekend job was actually at the temple, and he would a lot of times work graves. And so
he's just nodding like, I'm that guy.
He would need to go to sleep, so he would go upstairs and go to sleep. But he
used air quotes, by the way.
Yeah, because he's talking to people, a lot of girls, when he's upstairs. And I'm thinking he's sleeping. I'd come upstairs and he'd be awake. And it would always hit me like, well, if you're awake, why don't you just come downstairs? Why are you just lying up here by yourself? Why aren't you just coming out with me? But have you ever taken the color code test? I'm a white. I used to be teased. I was so white, I was clear. So I'm not a rock the boat. I don't rock the boat. I don't want to have those hard conversations. I don't like that kind of stuff. Confrontation. That's not my thing.
Conflict avoidant then.
Yes, exactly. I'm really good. I'm so good at those things. And so I would just kind of just take that like, well, I wish he would hang out with me, but I'm not going to say so because he's working so hard. And at the time he was in the bishopric, he's working 2 jobs. I don't want to be the naggy wife and say, come hang out with me. So I would just let it slide. Not knowing what was going on upstairs, but
but your gut telling you maybe otherwise.
Yeah.
And so where are you at with your self-worth at this point in time a year and a half ago? Before I was actually doing pretty good. Like, I don't feel like I was bad. Then when I found out everything, it was gone. Self-worth was gone. Because then I still felt like I had some, something to do with it. I felt like it was my fault in some way. Sure. As well as, not speaking up beforehand, and I did know a little bit about his pornography and masturbation and stuff like that. I knew some about that. So I kind of felt like, well, you knew, but I didn't really know. I didn't know how dependent he was on it. Yeah. So Chris, take us there, man. Take us to that grace moment. So it's a year and a half ago, and something happened that you realized you had a problem.
You want me to say it? You look like you want me to.
No, she can't jump on this one. This is your part of the story to tell.
Tell me. I found out.
Okay, so there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is yours. Okay, go.
So one of the women that he would chat with happened to be one of my sister's ex-roommates, and he acted out with. She told some of their other friends, and it got back to my sister. My sister, of course, told my other sister. I have 6 sisters. And I think
Where do you fit in the 6?
I'm the third of 8 kids.
Okay.
So I have one brother. And she told another sister, and the sister, just younger than me, came over to my house.
And I was out of town.
He had just gone out of town, and she came over to my house. It was conference weekend, so I kind of have a little bit of about conference.
Yeah.
I shuddered. It's fine at that conference. And she said, "Do you think Christian would ever be unfaithful to you?" And I was like, "No," even though I knew he had.
Yeah.
But I wasn't going to tell her that.
Right.
And so she said, "Well, this person told our other sister this has been going on with her for like 12 years. Wow. So I pick up my phone and I text him and I said, what do you want to tell me about this person? We've chatted. I said, "Oh, really? You've chatted? That's news to me. What else?" "Nothing." "Oh, nothing, really? Nothing else?" "No." And I go back, and I actually kept these texts because I just like to go back and remember who this person was, because I want to hug her because her world just fell apart. But I hugged my sister. I told her thank you, and she left, and I called him on the phone, and I don't even know what I said. Do you remember what I said?
Pretty much like what you've just been saying. It was probably the hardest phone call I've ever had to try and weasel my way out of. I was doing everything I could to basically lie through that call. And I had just gotten to my destination for work, and all of a sudden, that was on I think it was on Monday.
It was Sunday.
It was Sunday. And basically the rest of the week that I was there for work was just, it was the hardest week of work. And, I basically back to her phone call, I was just having the hardest time. I'm like, okay, what lie could I tell her that will just kind of brush this over?
Make this all go away.
Yeah, make this all go away. And so finally I had kind of divulged everything to her, over a space of time.
Not quite yet.
Well, yeah.
He told me most things.
Most of the stuff that I did with this person. And, that was hard. And then, where do you want to take it from here? She's a storyteller.
So finally that hit me. So I was like, "Okay, what else?" He'd be like, "There's nothing else." "There is something else." "No, there's nothing else." "You did more with her." "No, that's it." So that went back and forth all week, and he was gone until Friday. And it was actually a good thing he was gone, because I probably would have ripped his face off or something. I don't know. He would not have been healthy. And finally, this girl sent an email to my friend telling some of the stuff they had done, because this friend was upset that she had lost a friendship up with, my sister and this other friend, about stuff they'd done. And I'm like, anyway, it's...
So you're not the only woman in denial,
yes,
apparently.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I knew there was more. So I kept asking him, what else is there?
Yeah.
And I think after I finally said, "I know you did this," then he admitted it. But there's more.
Yeah.
And I said, "So who else?" And he said, "No one." And I said, "Oh, okay, no one." And I believed him this much. I think that was the part of me that wanted...
Her fingers are very close together
close.
for our listening audience.
Yes, sorry, I forget. You can't see me. I really wanted to believe him, but I didn't believe him. So that was like, conference weekend. So the first weekend of April.
Yeah.
And that whole month just really sucked.
2019. Yep.
And this was a hard month because he would go out of town for work. He was out of town from Sunday to Friday. Mm-hmm. He worked at the temple on Saturday. He was in the bishopric at the time, so he'd go to church meetings on Sunday, and then he flew out that Sunday afternoon. So he was like not home at all. And in the meantime, I had my 2 sisters and my friend talking to me about this because they knew.
And because I know people are going to be curious, anything happen with the fertility treatments?
Oh, yes. Yes, we have 2 beautiful boys.
Oh, cool.
Yes. So those did work. Thank you to science.
Yes.
And so it was really hard. And my sisters and my friend, who I thought would really be my confidants, I want to say, kind of started telling me what I should do.
Yeah.
And they kept telling me, why haven't you gone to the bishop yet? Why haven't you done this yet? Why is he still at the temple? Mm-hmm. And, he's the whole month of April. First of all, I just found out about it. And the whole month of April, he's not there. So it's like, there's not even time for us to like discuss what's going on.
Yeah. You're still trying to process it yourself. Which P.S. The spouses don't need advice.
Right.
They just need love.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know they meant well because sisters mean well, but
Sure.
they were just telling me, you need to go to stake president. He needs to go to stake president. Somebody needs to go to stake president. And I'm like, I know. And I said, we're taking care of it. That wasn't good enough. So they kind of, because of that, they kind of pushed me away.
Yeah.
And also I found out that my sister had known since September about it and hadn't told me. So there's a whole lot of like
some betrayal
there too. And I know she didn't mean to, but I'm dealing with that and I'm dealing with him. And so I'm dealing with the end of our world because we're so wrapped up in things of our church, like being the bishopric. That's a big calling, working at the temple. That was huge for us. And that was all going to come to an end.
Yeah.
And I just remember, washing his Sunday shirts one time and just like sobbing into a heap because I was so mad at him. But like, I was so afraid too. And I didn't want our world to end, even though I knew it had to end. So
a lot of loss.
Yeah, a whole lot of loss. And April 28th, I think, rolled around and it was ward conference. And, sustain our leaders of our ward when they do ward conference. And I sustained him and I'm sitting on our pew sobbing. And afterwards, I kind of had like an anxiety attack in the hall of the church, which is awesome. That's wonderful.
You're gonna do it in public.
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
So I'm standing in the hall and he walks up to me. I collapse in his arms and I'm sobbing. People are walking by, patting me on their shoulder.
Yeah, they're like, we're not sure what to do with this. Yeah.
And I just had a breakdown because at that point, I had the forces tell me what I should be doing. I didn't know what I even wanted to be doing. It was like all these things at once. And he finally went to the stake president that afternoon.
That afternoon, I went and talked to the stake president. And
so what's going on for you in this process? We've heard what's going on for her. So busted, right? You're busted and you're traveling for work. You're sitting with this for like several weeks.
Yeah. That was hard. I didn't eat very well that time. Obviously now my Star Wars shirt is kind of like bulging at the,
midsection.
But I got caught and my whole world had stopped, because I had these things that I could go to in times of need, like times of stress. I could talk to people. I could go see people. I could look at
the women you're acting out with,
the women I was acting out with. I could go see them. I could have that release, and that all came to a crashing end. And so still I don't think at that time I I wasn't supportive really to her. And I still was very selfish. And so that Sunday,
right before you left, you showed me the letter, your list.
oh yeah,
Well, tell us that now.
He
You had a letter.
he had a list of all the women he'd acted out with and what he had done and about his time frame.
Oh,
And he says, I saw he was upstairs, so I went upstairs and I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Look on the bed." So I look on the bed and there's his list. So now instead of this one person,
that's a complete list.
yeah.
So this isn't spotlighting
Well,
anymore.
Well, it was almost a complete list.
yeah.
We'll get there. It listed all the people.
And this was
that he'd
during
been
that.
talking to.
This is right after.
This is right after my breakdown at church and things like that. Yep.
Okay, so you're seeing this the same Sunday you're going to the stake president.
Yes.
So you
Just
put
before he
together the
went.
list to take it to the stake president?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So I see this list, and on this list are women I knew. So that was just another blow. Because even though he's my husband, these were my friends.
Right. It's like betrayal both ways.
Yeah.
Betrayal again. So
Yeah.
he shows me this list, and I think I let you have it again
Yeah.
a few times.
Yep.
And you tell them what. Do you want to tell them what happened?
I think at that point I felt so ashamed that I had a loaded gun under the bed, and I wanted to end it. I wanted to be done. I couldn't take it anymore.
Well, because you'd spend the last month having the way you'd compartmentalized in denial be totally broken.
Yeah.
And actually had to sit with what's been going on.
And I finally had to face what reality was. And I can remember I grabbed the keys out of my pocket, the gun case, and I said, "Hey, can you move?" And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, I can't do it. I want to end it. I want to kill myself. And she said to me, she goes, "No, you're not. I want you to be the man that I know you can be, and be the father for those kids downstairs." And I think that was a turning point at that time that I started realizing what, that I wanted to get rid of this stuff. I wanted to get rid of the pain. I wanted to get out of the darkness of pornography for the last 30 plus years. I wanted to be free from that. But I can't believe I almost thought that suicide was the way out. It's never the way out. And so do you want me to tell about how I went to the stake president?
Well,
Yeah, we do.
I took the gun was in a case. I took the case. I hid the case. I hid
call.
the key.
Good call.
Yeah, that was no longer an option.
So you go to the stake president.
So you go to stake president, and I went to. My sister was giving birth to a baby, so he went there, and I went there. So that's where we were.
And I basically, as anyone knows, when you got to confess, you just lay it out on the line, and I think it was kind of a shock to the stake president.
Probably, yeah.
That he was like, "You did what?" And I started sobbing, and I can remember asking him, when I started just like letting it all hang out, I said, President, at what time does the atonement start working for me? He goes, the minute you stepped in this room and started confessing. And the weirdest, at a strange moment, I just thought to myself, I'm like, the atonement is working. For the first time in my life, I could feel I started coming unto Christ. I started coming back. And I felt his loving arms in the midst of the worst possible time in my entire life, where I just broken every single covenant that I had made. I had hurt my wife's life. I wanted to end my life. But after all this, there was still light at the end of the tunnel, and I could see it, and it felt great. And I loved it.
It's great for that, church leader to not like just shame or whatever and just be like, yep, this is where it turns around.
Yeah.
You made the right move, to give you that assurance and that hope in that moment. Sounds like it was a powerful and meaningful moment for you too.
It was. And, so, we had met for, I don't know, maybe every other week there for a while. And, there was times where I would still come back home and I would say, all right, there's more. Basically, it didn't all happen at one time where I just kind of told her everything. I had there was like maybe two or three.
Just two, maybe.
Two times of just letting it all out.
And this is like a common experience. The addict is like, did I get it all out? Is that true? Right? And as the spouse, it was like, I can tell you exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And so fast forward a little bit to my court, if that's okay to talk about.
A membership.
Yeah. Well, I would even go back. Like, so 28th of April, word conference. He's up there on the stand. He's sustained. Next week, he's out. And it was
the cultural
and
shame.
It was very public because he told the stake president and didn't tell our bishop. So our bishop didn't know until, I guess, later that
Sunday night.
Yeah.
And so we didn't know Christian wasn't sitting on the stand that next Sunday. It was all very obvious that something had gone on. And so it wasn't, so not only was there all that, but then it was all very public.
Right.
So I even had someone from the ward come up to me afterwards and say, what's going on?
Sure.
Bless her heart. Oh, nothing,
Yeah.
But, so it was kind of, in our ward, it was kind of a...
Basically, when it all happened, I sat on the front seat of the
over in the front row
of the front row, and basically, I could feel 300 plus eyeballs on the back of my neck.
Yeah,
and it was hard. It was. I wanted to give up again. I wanted to give up.
Yeah. Yeah, and what we know in truth, right, is like there probably wasn't 300 eyeballs on you. It's probably more like 10.
Well, maybe,
and a bunch of people are too busy with their kids and whatever. But that shame looms very big, right? Yeah. The shame of this experience is very big. So you had your membership council. Yeah. What came out of that, and how was that experience?
Well, back then, before things changed, I am excommunicated.
Okay, so membership withdrawn would be the term they use now. So that's the church part. Tell us like the recovery, like so what have you done in this last year as far as like recovery? What's been the most healing? Give us the gold.
Well, so right now I am working on doing the ARP. I go to those. For the last probably 13, 14 months, I've been going to those.
Since everything.
And I had, those have been a godsend. Mm-hmm. They are amazing. And if anyone is listening and has hesitation about that, believe me that it is the best thing that has ever happened to me. It gives me so much strength.
Now, do you have like a home base meeting, like one that you go to every week that's kind of home base for you? Did it take you a little while to find that?
When I started, I was kind of jumping around from, meeting to meeting, around my house. And it wasn't until probably the third or fourth month that I found where I wanted to be. Yeah. And so, now with COVID that we don't meet in person right now, we do the phone in. Right. And, there's about 5 or 6 of us that still kind of get together. Mm-hmm. And it is amazing how that can strengthen your testimony and build you up and help give you that ammunition, so to speak, to fight, the adversary and his doubts that he casts upon you. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's where we're currently working the 12 steps as we speak, me and Mr. Wilhite here. Yep. So,
yeah. So I'm guessing, so you started going to 12-step right away, it sounds like, or ARP meetings right away. What other resources have really helped you and really turned this around for you?
I have found that, that I read my scriptures every day. I pray every day. I have found that I have kind of taken myself out of the world, so to speak. That I have to have like constant good thoughts, because sin doesn't happen like in an instant. For me, if I want to sin, I'll think about it. I'll think about how I can do it without getting caught.
Right. Preoccupy about it.
And so I have taken myself out of the world. I try to do whatever I can that would keep Christ in my heart every minute of the day. Now, I'm not perfect, but I do what I can.
So, I asked you earlier about, who was God to you then? Tell me about God now.
He is everything to me. He is everything. I will never kick my covenants to the side ever again. Once I get them back, they are mine forever. And I will never, ever, ever betray God again. Because that was the worst time of my life. You want to talk about freedom? Make yourself right with the Lord. That's freedom. And that's love.
So, Karen, how about for you? When you started in this process, you're like, I ain't going to no therapist. Right. I ain't got to be at no meeting. This is not my problem. So is that still your stance? Are you still in denial?
No. So when this all hit the fan, I finally realized, I can't be a doormat anymore. I can't just he was really good at
gaslighting.
Yes, gaslighting and manipulating me. And so he was really good at making situations seem normal in a marriage when if now looking at it, you're like, what the hell were you thinking? Yeah. Really? Yeah. But if he would bring up something he'd want to try or a fantasy he wanted to think about or talk about. I'd say, no, that's too far for me. All right. So then he might bring it up again a few months later and then make me comfortable with things, And so he was so good at that he kind of brought me along this process a little bit. And so when I found out all these other things that had happened, I just knew the tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm. Like I said, all of that is gone because we can't have that in our marriage because that feeds the addiction.
Some sexual boundaries.
Exactly.
Sounds like
exactly.
Making some boundaries.
We don't have any of those kinds of things. And so I was terrified to go to like a spouse meeting.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And in fact, the first one I went to, I sat in the parking lot and cried. And I was just pissed. I was pissed that I had to be there. I was pissed that he had put us in this situation. I didn't want to go into this meeting. I didn't want to talk to people. And so I'm talking to Heavenly Father and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to go in there and this better be good. So I walk in there and it's the facilitator and the missionaries. And I'm like, son of a, that's it. You know, I'm expecting a room full of women and we can say, oh, our husbands, they all suck. Not really, but you know, we love them. But, and it wasn't like that. So I got home and I was kind of like, all right, Heavenly Father, what, you know who I am. You know where I'm comfortable at. You know that things like that, those kinds of meetings give me the most anxiety. It's just off the charts. I'm not good in those kind of situations. Lead me somewhere. And I kind of told you guys before, like how I found your podcast.
Do you share with the class?
Yes, I'm in the Young Women's presidency, and our president said, listen to this really good podcast from Leading Saints when they're talking to Hank Smith. Listen to this because he talks about how you can tell good stories and bring the girls in. And I'm like, okay, so I listened to that. And so we talk about it, and I'm like, I wonder else what this guy has on this podcast. So I start scrolling through, and this is after I'd already known everything. So this is like June-ish, July-ish. And he'd already been, excommunicated and stuff. So I was searching for some things, but I just didn't know quite where to go. And so then I found Chris and Autumn's story on Leading Saints. I was like,
oh, we love Chris and Autumn.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, other people, they have such messed up marriages like me. Mm-hmm. We're not the only ones. Because I really felt like, it's not true, but I really felt like we were the only ones. I'm like, we're the only ones who have been going through this for 20 years, or whatever. And so then that led me to, then he did his summit, his pornography summit. Mm-hmm. And that's when I heard your story. Mm-hmm. So then I heard your story, and then you talked about your podcast, and I found this podcast. And it made all the difference for me because I started listening to yours and I listened to the Next Step podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Between those two podcasts, and then we went to a general addiction meeting together.
We did.
Oh, cool.
It opened my eyes. Like, I finally felt like sympathy, like I could get on, like, I'm not perfect either, but I finally understood that.
Empathy,
thank you. That it was like, oh my gosh, these people are actually willing to admit what they struggle with and talk about it, because that's really hard. And so it really helped me heal with the process of like realizing that it's not a bunch of perverted old men in these meetings and stuff. And so I've read some books, things of that nature. Heavenly Father's just kind of like led me step by step what I've been looking for, what I'm needing at the time. Yeah. And so I just keep my heart open to where I go next. Yeah. What I need next.
And I guess we're going to jump into a lot of where you go next in the bonus content. Okay. We want to get deeper into where you're going. But I think we want to end the episode here by asking you the same question that James asked you, Christian, was you feel like you had a good relationship with God. You lived in a pile of denial for a lot of years. Yeah. Which that's your words, right? I'm not.
Yes. Oh,
so
no,
if anyone thinks I'm putting something in your mouth, I'm not.
It's true.
So like, where are you with God now? And is it any different than where you were?
It's even better. It's so much better because I'm being real. Before, my relationship with God was more like, I'm going to come to you when things are good and everything's fine. We'll hash things out. And when this went and happened, it's not like I lost my faith in God, but it was more like I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe you let this happen to me almost. I blamed God, but I didn't hate him. But we had a lot of not nice conversations in the car to work. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of hashing it out with God. I think one time he said, when I told him I would pray in the car on the way to work, he said, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. And I said, no, you don't, because I swear a lot. And I say not nice things about you when I'm driving in the car. It's hard to explain, but I was angry and bitter, and I still can be angry and bitter, but I was really angry and bitter. I had some experiences that just let me know he was there. That really helped me get through it. Before you had your court, I was going through some stuff in the garage, and I found my wedding dress. And I picked up that wedding dress, and it felt like it was on fire. It was actually my temple dress, because that's what you get married in. And I run into the house. I was by myself, and I dropped to my knees, and I'm like in a puddle, sobbing at the thought of like losing our temple marriage. Those covenants and if you got excommunicated. And I'm just sobbing to Heavenly Father. And I literally feel his arms around me. And I just like can't deny that happened to me. So that really carried me through. That's not the first time that's happened for me. And so to say my relationship's always been good, but it's even better because I feel like I can come to him with the ugly stuff. And I don't have to be like the good daughter all the time.
Yeah.
Because I kind of felt like that, you know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So one thing that we do ask all of our listeners is if
Because music is awesome.
Yeah,
It is.
Good.
is if they have a song that just really resonates with them now or at the point of recovery or something like that. Is there a song that's really powerful and meaningful for you that you'd like to share with our listeners?
We do have a song, and for me, "Be Still My Soul." My life has been in denial, in shame, and lies for the last 30 plus years. And a song that can instantly calm your soul is everything to me. Mm-hmm. Just like Karen's everything to me. I don't know where I'd be without her. And this song brings me right there where I need to be. Because without her, I'd be lost.
That's awesome. So, "Be Still My Soul" by Jill Chapman. Mm-hmm. Christian, Karen, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your hearts and your story with us. It's amazing. I've been touched, to just, man, the courage you guys have and what you've been through and your testimony now can truly feel your love for the Savior and his love for you as well. To our outsiders, we love you. Thank
Freaking
you.
love you.
We'll see you in the bonus content here. And, to all our listeners, thank you. Follow us on social media at Unashamed and Afraid, at Instagram, Facebook. If you want to become an outsider, donate, go to unashamedunafraid.com/donate.
If you need help with recovery, we might have a scholarship for you because of the awesome donations we've had from outsiders. So go to the webpage, see the available scholarships right now.
Yeah. Hop on iTunes if you like what you're hearing. Give us 5 stars. And with that, remain unashamed and unafraid.
Be still, my soul. The Lord is on thy side. With patience bear thy cross of grief or pain. Leave to thy God to order and provide. In every change he faithful will remain. Be still, my soul, thy best, thy heavenly friend. Through thorny ways leads to a joyful end. Be still, my soul. thy God doth undertake to guide the future as he has the past. Thy hope, thy confidence, let nothing shake. All now mysterious shall be bright at last. Be still, my soul, the waves and winds still know his voice who ruled them while he dwelt below. Be still, my soul, the hour is hastening on when we shall be